I opened the living room door and took a deep breath. Sunlight flooded the space, but something felt off. My gaze fell on my grandmother's lamp, a family heirloom that always occupied its place in the corner. Now it was on the table, as if someone had moved it carefully. A chill ran down my spine. This wasn't the kind of detail I would overlook. I approached cautiously, keeping an eye on my surroundings. Elena always said I had an overactive imagination, but this time I felt something more. Lucia, I heard her voice from upstairs. It sounded relaxed, as if nothing was amiss. I'm looking for the real estate contract. Did you see it? I was speechless. She knew I had a copy on my desk. Why was she asking now? Perhaps that's why the lamp was out of place. She wanted to know if I was there, observing everything. Yes, Elena, I replied, my voice trembling. I have it here. I knew it wasn't enough. She needed more, something tangible to assure her. Then I saw it, a notification on her mobile that left me cold. It was a map with my house marked, and a location alert. Carlos, Elena's lawyer, was also nearby. I knew because I heard the crunch of his car as it parked, followed by heavy footsteps approaching the door. Elena moved back, her face now tense. I'm going to check some documents in my office, he said in a nervous voice. Carlos entered through the front door with a heavy backpack that seemed full of papers. His eyes drifted towards the window, as if he were looking for something or someone. Elena doesn't want to speak with you. Then I saw it, a photo on the table, near the moved lamp. It was a strange symbol, engraved in metal, that I had never seen before. The image was blurry, but it gave me a strange feeling, as if I were looking through time. I'm sorry, Lucia, Carlos said in a cold voice as he approached the photo. You can't see this. And suddenly, everything darkened. A knot tightened in my throat. Elena had thrown me out of my home, robbing me of the only place that held memories of my parents. It's not fair that they take advantage of me, I whispered, remembering the phrase that was now my mantra. I needed evidence, something concrete to dismantle their deceit. I had the purchase agreement, mortgage receipts, and bank statement. But one vital document was missing. The one that proved there were no outstanding debts, which legally removed me from ownership. The last time I saw it, before the move, was a copy on my desk. Now, it seemed to have vanished. First, I went to the notary's office, where the original contract was signed. The woman looked at me with disdain when I mentioned the lost document. I'm sorry, she said indifferently. There was a fire a few months ago, and many documents were destroyed. Her response was cold. She didn't feel any guilt. I felt vulnerable, as if I were fighting an invisible wall. Javier, my lawyer, encouraged me. Don't give up, he said with a firm voice. We will explore other options. We can ask the court to search for the document in their archives. I entered the cold courtroom where paperwork and bureaucracy reigned. The search was tedious, but then, while browsing through old documents, I found something. A file with a hidden clause, written in small print, that mentioned an inheritance debt. Elena had always denied knowing about that inheritance. Why hide it? Notary Maria's office was as imposing as I had imagined. Her dark wooden desk gleamed under the lights, and diplomas hung on the wall like trophies. A knot tightened in my stomach, reminding me of my father's words. It is important to have solid evidence, Lucia. I arrived with the original contract in hand, along with the hidden document Javier had found. The truth is here, I murmured to myself, as if it were a plea. I sat across from Maria and showed her the contract. This contract has errors, things that don't add up. Maria frowned. What do you mean? This contract is legal and valid, but there's more. You need to see this, I insisted, extending the hidden document. His face darkened upon seeing it. Where did you get this? His voice was now a menacing whisper. Javier intervened firmly. My client has proof that this contract was forged by you, Notary Maria. I suggest you be honest. The room crackled with tension at that moment. The air grew thick and Maria rose to her feet with sudden fury. Are you accusing me of corruption? Don't be foolish. I assure you this contract is genuine, and if you try to slander me, you will face legal consequences. His voice was now a threatening roar. I felt paralyzed by his anger, but Javier stood firm. We have irrefutable evidence, Notary Maria, he said. Your career is at stake. He approached the table, his face taut. You should think carefully about what you say, young woman. I can revoke this contract, leaving me with nothing. His eyes glinted with a dark threat. The room felt charged, a dense silence broken only by the ticking of the clock. All eyes were on me, as if waiting for my next move. My hand trembled slightly as I held the mortgage receipts, that purchase agreement which had given me a right from the beginning. It's not fair that they take advantage of me, I thought with a deep bitterness, remembering Javier's words, my lawyer. Lucia, these documents will be your most powerful weapon. I got to the heart of the matter, presenting the receipts to the judge with firmness. Your Honor, I have irrefutable evidence that proves the non-existence of the supposed debt. These documents, original and authentic, show the monthly payments made throughout the entire period. This is more than just a claim, it's a premeditated falsification. The tension in the room was palpable. Elena, my sister, shrank in her seat while Carlos, her accomplice, avoided my gaze. The judge listened attentively, examining every detail of the documents. His eyes rested on me, seeking answers, perhaps still doubting my testimony. Javier, with a calm and precise voice, continued, Your Honor, the responsibility for this act of deception does not solely lie with Elena and Carlos. The notary who certified these false documents must be investigated. The revelation shocked the audience. A murmur spread through the room as if the public were trying to process what they had just heard. Javier's words echoed in my head. The truth, finally revealed. It was a victory, but the final step remained. I felt cold sweat on the nape of my neck. Each word from Elena's lawyer like a dagger piercing my skin. There is no evidence, only his testimony, he insisted, with such a confident voice that it made me question my own convictions. But I knew the truth. I had it all. The original sales contract, the mortgage receipts, and a bank statement proving the non-existence of the debt. It was an uphill battle, but I wasn't going to give up. I had fought for this place for so long. It was my home, my refuge. My sister Elena had taken it from me with a lie, as if it were a worthless toy. It's not fair that they take advantage of me, I murmured to myself, reminding myself of the reason that drove me. Javier, my lawyer, looked at me with that look of confidence I so desperately needed. I knew he believed in me, in my story, and that gave me strength to keep fighting. The judge, a stern and silent man, listened to both sides' presentations. Then he rose. The gavel struck the marble table forcefully, and he said, The court declares the debt null and void based on the contract forgery. Words struck me like thunder. I couldn't believe it. We had won. Javier smiled at me, his eyes gleaming with satisfaction. The sentence orders the immediate restitution of the property to Lucia. The judge continued, his voice firm and clear. My heart pounded. It was real. We had done it. Furthermore, the judge added, looking directly at Elena's lawyer, the tribunal orders that the original contract and Lucia's legal rights be protected under the custody of lawyer Javier. Joy flooded me like a wave. We had won the battle, but I knew the war was not over entirely. Elena would surely find a way to fight this. For now, I was happy. Back home, surrounded by my belongings, I felt the weight of the world lifting from my shoulders. I left the sales contract on the desk, an annulment that seemed as final as a full stop. My family home, the house that had been taken from me with lies and deceit. A terrible feeling of emptiness consumed me until Javier, my lawyer, handed me the updated deed. It's official now, Lucia, he said with a warm smile. You are the owner, body and soul. You are the owner, body and soul. I felt a lump in my throat. I couldn't hold back the tears. That's when I understood that it was more than just a piece of paper. It was the reclamation of the place where I grew up, where I lived my dreams, and where I kept my most precious memories. But the journey wasn't completely over. Notary Maria was still out there, with her false smile and hands stained with fraud. It pleased me to know that she was under investigation by the authorities. Finally, I thought perhaps I can live in peace. With a blend of nostalgia and relief, I took the mailbox keys. The same keys that had been the symbol of my stolen possession now returned my freedom. I approached the familiar door and opened it with a soft click. I pushed the door inward, as if entering a new era. Then, I inserted the original key, the same model I had used for years, into the lock. I changed the combination one last time, ensuring it was securely locked. And as I turned the key firmly, a deep sense of relief flooded my body. It's not fair that they took advantage of me. My house was mine again. I sat at my desk, surrounded by papers that seemed endless. I sifted through mortgage statements, hoping to find a clue, perhaps an expiration date that could help me. The truth is, all I found was more frustration and the bitter taste of betrayal. My family home, a place filled with memories, now felt like a lurking threat. Elena, my own sister, had found a way to evict me with a non-existent debt. Or at least that's what I believed. It's not fair that they take advantage of me, I thought bitterly as I went over the lines of the purchase agreement. They had stolen my home as if it were a worthless toy. Elena called customer service and demanded an explanation for the debt. Her voice was cold and assured, as if she already had everything under control. I found her attitude irritating, but I couldn't afford to lose control in the middle of this situation. Carlos, our lawyer, arrived with an envelope containing a bank statement. He handed me the documents with a worried look, mumbling something about non-existent payments and forgeries. My head began to spin as I reviewed each line of the statement. The amounts were precise, but they did not correspond with the payment records I had. It was an incomplete puzzle, with pieces that didn't fit. Elena entered the room without warning, her gaze fixed on the bank statement in my hands. The total debt is 27,500 euros. Way spoke with a voice as cold as steel. You can't deny it. 27,500 euros. It wasn't the figure I had expected. How could this be possible? I knew this was a trap from the start. Elena, my own sister, evicting me with a non-existent debt. How could she afford it? I looked over the papers, reviewing each clause, but I found nothing coherent. It was as if the figures in the sale agreement had been invented to strip me of my family home. It's not fair that they are taking advantage of me. I felt powerless, unsure where to turn. The only way out I saw was to analyze everything carefully, reconstruct the events, and find the definitive proof that demonstrated their falsehood. On my desk, I found a copy of the sale agreement along with some mortgage receipts. I need the bank statement, I thought aloud. That same afternoon, I checked my online banking history, trying to uncover clues. And then I saw it. An unauthorized line of credit that had been opened months earlier. The amount was significant, but the strangest thing was that I had no recollection of requesting such a loan. A sharp pang of anxiety ran through me. Was Elena behind this? I decided to visit the notary, Maria, who had handled the buying and selling transaction years ago. I explained my situation, and she gave me a copy of the original bank statement. I examined it carefully, but something didn't seem right. The signature next to the transfer was unfamiliar, as if someone had forged the document. A shiver ran down my spine. I couldn't trust anyone. As I left Maria's office, I encountered Pablo, the neighbor who had always been kind and helpful. He told me he had seen lights on in my house during the night, just when the debt was supposedly created. It looked like someone was coming in and out. Said it to me. My mind raced, trying to piece things together. Alina, the legal forgeries, the unauthorized line of credit. Could she possibly be involved in all this? And that unfamiliar signature on the statement. My house, my family inheritance. They took it from me with a sales contract that I knew was false, as if it were just a piece of paper with no value. It's not fair that they take advantage of me, I thought as I reviewed the mortgage receipts, searching for any anomaly. Fury consumed me, but I knew I couldn't react impulsively. I needed a plan, a solid legal strategy to get back what was mine. Calling Javier, my lawyer, was the first right decision. He was a calm, methodical man with a cunning that I admired. He arrived promptly at my office, listening attentively to my words as I showed him the documents. Javier reviewed every detail calmly, analyzing the dates, names, and signatures. In the end, he sighed and said, "Lucia, what they did was a carefully crafted setup, but not invincible. We can prove it, but you'll need my help." I felt relief, as if a small light had illuminated the dark tunnel I was trapped in. Javier explained the steps to follow: gather compelling evidence, find credible witnesses, and prepare an irrefutable argument for the court. We need to collect all possible documents, Javier said. Purchase agreements, mortgage receipts, even bank statements proving the origin of the money used for the supposed debt. We also need witnesses who can corroborate your version. I was touched by his determination. It was the first time someone promised me real help, that they saw a way out of this nightmare. As Javier spoke of legal strategies and court procedures, a shiver ran down my spine. "There's one more detail," he said in a grave voice. One piece of evidence. Words hung in the air like a threat, but also like a promise. Suddenly, I didn't feel so helpless. Javier offered his help, and we started to review the sales contract together. It was a complex document, but my mind focused on looking for anomalies, as if it were a treasure hunt. Every clause we scrutinized with a magnifying glass, comparing it with mortgage receipts and bank statements. I had to find something. Proof that demonstrated the falsifications. "Look at this," Javier said, pointing to a small detail in tiny print. This clause was not present in the copy Alina gave me. That same day, Alina went to the notary's office to sign the altered document. She refused point blank, causing an altercation with the official. Carlos, on the other hand, gathered additional evidence and managed to obtain a copy of the original contract for my family home. The clause that was missing in the modified version was present in this old document. A small detail, but crucial to my case. When Carlos handed me the original copy and explained his discovery, a shiver ran down my spine. It's not fair that they are taking advantage of me, I thought with rage. It was another piece of the puzzle that I was going to dismantle. The truth was there, hidden between lines and fabrications. But when I examined the original copy given to me by Carlos, I realized something terrible. The document also had an alteration, subtle but evident. A small change in a key date. With the original sales contract before my eyes, I headed to Elena's apartment. I knew it. What they did was steal my house, as if it were a worthless toy. My voice trembled slightly when I knocked on the door, but my determination was unwavering. It's not fair that they are taking advantage of me. Elena opened the door with an ironic smile that cut me to the core. "Lucia, what a surprise. What brings you here?" Her cold eyes did not reflect a shred of remorse. "I bring you this," I replied, showing her the document. "The original contract, Elena. The same one that supposedly never existed." Her lips tightened as her gaze swept over the lines on the paper. Her smile vanished, replaced by sudden fury. "You're insane," she spat. "This can't be real." "I'm not insane, Elena," I said calmly, keeping my voice steady. "I have this contract signed by both your parents. What you did was a forgery." Carlos, her partner, appeared behind her with a worried expression. "Lucia, this isn't necessary. Let's just leave things as they are." "As they are?" I retorted sarcastically. "As if my house were hers? As if my rights didn't exist." Elena approached me, threateningly, her voice raspy. "Call the police." Carlos intervened, trying to calm the situation, but I ignored him. My eyes were fixed solely on Elena. "Don't be absurd," I said firmly. "I ask you to sign a document acknowledging the forgery and returning my property to me." Elena remained silent, her face contorted with rage. She turned to Carlos, whispering something between her teeth. She won't sign anything, ever. Carlos's phone rang as he prepared his coffee. I didn't move. I remained hidden behind the door, breathing carefully. What I heard sent a chill down my spine. The clause for selling at a symbolic price. Notary Maria has it ready. Carlos said in a low voice, full of confidence. A surge of anger pierced my chest. How could he be so brazen? A contract of sale without my consent, with a clause that allowed him to take possession of my house for a ridiculous price. Suddenly, Maria entered Carlos's office with a folder under her arm. She had a serious and thoughtful expression, as if she carried the weight of the world on her shoulders. She handed the new document to Carlos, who reviewed it carefully. And that ensures there are no witnesses, said Carlos, while meeting Maria's gaze. I felt a shiver run down my spine. I let out a small laugh, but it was more of a grimace of pain. It's not fair that they take advantage of me, I told myself. I had to find out everything about this macabre plan. On the work desk, I found the document signed by Elena. It was an old sales contract, but what didn't add up was the date. It coincided with the date of the alleged agreement between Elena and Carlos. But my mind raced to formulate a more disturbing hypothesis. Why a sale at a symbolic price? To whom was this fraudulent sale directed? At that moment, Carlos's phone rang again. He answered with a smile, but his face tightened as he listened. Yes, everything is going according to plan. I'm sure, he said in a low voice. Then he lowered the volume and murmured to me, I have to go, Lucia. The silence of the courtroom was as thick as the hot air in the room. Javier squeezed my hand, a comforting gesture amidst so much uncertainty. Suddenly, everything felt very real. The fight for my family home, the accusation of a non-existent debt, the cold and indifferent faces of the opponents. Elena and Carlos seemed so confident, as if they had already won. But I had my evidence. My only anchor in this storm was the original purchase contract. Point out to the judge the clause in the contract that states the return of the property in case of non-payment. Javier had prepared me for this moment. I felt resolute, though my voice trembled slightly as I spoke. As can be seen in this clause, the return of the property is clearly stipulated if the agreed-upon payments are not met. The tension was palpable. The judge, a thin man with a piercing gaze, asked both parties to explain the origin of the mortgage receipts that Elena and Carlos had presented as evidence. These documents are forged, Carlos blurted out, cutting me off. It's not fair that they take advantage of me. The phrase echoed in my mind. It was the only thing keeping me afloat in this legal hell. Notary Maria intervened, comparing the original documents with those presented by Elena and Carlos. Her eyebrows rose in surprise as she examined the copies. There are notable inconsistencies in the information contained in these receipts. The signature date does not match the date of the original contract. My eyes met Javier's, a look of hope shining through. Victory seemed closer than ever. I gave him a slight nod to continue. What really concerns me is the lack of my signature on the original files, I pointed out to the judge. If I had signed these documents, I would have been aware of the outstanding payment and wouldn't have reached a situation. The judge analyzed each word carefully before delivering his verdict. I need more evidence to make a decision. Javier handed me a box filled with papers, telling me they were the mortgage receipts I needed for the trial. It was as if I were shaping my own defense, gathering evidence against the falsehood of the sales contract presented by Elena and Carlos. My family home, my inheritance, was at stake. The truth will always come to light, Javier said with a reassuring smile. But deep down, I knew it wouldn't be easy. The judge seemed skeptical from the start. He reviewed the documents, frowning and muttering doubts into the air. But Mrs. Lucia, how can we be sure of the authenticity of these receipts? They could also be forgeries. My response got stuck in my throat. He looked at me with an intensity that conveyed security. Your Honor, we have crucial testimony. A forensic accountant who examined the documents presented by the defense and found clear evidence of manipulation. The accountant's testimony was forceful. He described how the dates, stamps, and banking details did not align with the official record. But what was most alarming was when he mentioned an unusual pattern in the forgeries, a fingerprint that could only come from one person. Elena. It is not fair that they take advantage of me. I watched Elena from my seat in the courtroom. Her face remained impassive, as if she wasn't listening to the evidence against her. But I knew what she had done, and the judge seemed to be starting to realize it too. At the end of the day, the judge was reluctant to give an immediate sentence, needing more time to review the documents and testimony. As I left the courtroom with Javier, a flicker of hope surged through me. We had the truth on our side. But in that moment, as I went over the files, my hand found a hidden document at the bottom. An anonymous letter written by someone unknown that mentioned a terrible secret connected to my family and my house. A piece of the puzzle I had been searching for all this time. Perhaps that letter was the key to dismantling Elena and Carlos's lies.